welcome back to Everyone's Addicted, part two of Shaun's story, because his story is so captivating. We didn't get all of it in the first half, so we're going to have a second half so that we can pick him apart a little bit more. I'm just kidding. Anyways, go ahead, Shaun, and continue telling us more about your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Yeah, we kind of left off. I'd figured out where my trauma was coming from or how it was affecting me. And I learned that I needed to elevate who I was around, who I pursued, and those types of things. I don't know if I mentioned, but Jim Rohn has said that you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
You didn't mention that.
So,
Good.
yeah. Yeah. So, and I kind of live by that. So I don't want to be around people that are going to drag me down. It's like, hey, let's just go have a beer. Why are you working so hard? I want people that are going to push me to go, push me harder. Another Jim Rohn quote says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I want to be surrounded by those people that are going to lift me up and teach me, you know. And so I was on this journey, and I'd been a Toastmaster, and I actually become a Toastmaster in prison. And
That's
it's through
funny.
that, yeah, actually is
Well,
over
that's
20
funny,
years
just
ago.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think because most people would think that Toastmasters is in prison, and it's not in very
Mhm.
many of them.
But
But it is really the first thing really that I achieved inside. I achieved a certificate for Toastmasters, and I never achieved anything. And it felt
mm,
so good. It was awesome to be a part of this board, because I was a vice president of education and went all the way through to president, to all these
that is
positions, and I
awesome.
was uneducated. Yeah, I loved it. So when I got out, I kind of pursued it again. I knew I wanted to do public speaking, but I didn't know how. And I stopped at the college. And the admissions advisor there, Chris, she's awesome. I see her around town all the time. She's like, you better not stop or better not walk past me without talking. But she introduced me to NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. It's the largest grassroots mental health organization.
Yeah.
And she said, Michelle Nelson, she's a local reporter here, has this program that she's teaching in the high school. It's called Ending the Silence. So you'd be perfect for it.
Hmm.
She contacted me about that. And within a few months, I'm certified to teach Ending the Silence in high schools about suicide prevention, ending the stigma behind talking about it.
That's awesome.
And
We don't have that really here, so that's nice that you guys have that there. Because
yeah,
they like need to hear it firsthand, like even especially teenagers, right? And we don't have
yeah,
that. So it's like, you know, drugs, yay.
yeah, yeah. And it's a really good program. It's hard to get in actually, because like here you have to sign a waiver. The parents have to sign a waiver to allow them to go to this mental health program. And some don't get it. The kids don't push it. So it's not really big, but Michelle's really pushing it. It's a really good program. Access Healthcare funds it.
Sounds like a
But
good
that's how I got,
program.
oh, very good. And it's actually how I got my first podcast started. Michelle Nelson and I started Strength Beyond Struggle. And her and I kind of had a difference of opinions, and I kind of walked away. That's a whole other story. But
Hmm.
once again, it gave me the confidence to do it because I'd never thought about doing a podcast. And Toastmasters, there's actually a Toastmaster program, there's a path in Toastmasters to do a podcast.
Oh,
So I was like, all
really?
right, well, yeah. So I was like, let's do one about mental health. So we started this podcast, and within a few months, Patty, the lady that founded the local NAMI here, said, "Do you want to be president?" It's like, what? I was like, because she told me she wanted to talk to me. I was like, well, what about? They said, oh yeah, we want you to be president. So they voted me in as president of the local NAMI chapter, and it just blew my mind, because once again, I've been on the streets. I mean, I've literally those people that you see shuffling across town, looking like the lowest of the low. I've been there, and now here I'm leading an organization. I'm still president. I'm
Incredible.
still within my term. Yes, I've been president 1 year,
That's
and
incredible. Like that shows that, like that can give anybody hope from going, from the streets to prison to all those things, losing your
yeah,
ranch, to being able to come back. Like, like you're like the comeback kid. You come back and you're doing really well, and it's good to see that. Like it gives anybody who's watching this hope that, you know what, no matter how low you are, you can get
yeah,
to where you want to be.
for sure. And I'm not attractive. I'm not rich. I don't come from money. I'm not educated. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I am definitely the epitome of anybody can do it. And I've come to it. So one thing I did is I changed my views. I changed my inner dialogue. The first thing, so I started out with my physical fitness. While I was in prison, I think I mentioned before, I did wildland firefighter training and I got my red card. I was 42, I think, 44. Yeah, 40,
That's a hard job.
mid early 40s. Yeah. Really not smart to do at the age I was. And my knees were killing me. And I was always the last one off the mountain. So that season, even though I got my red card, I couldn't go out because there's enough people to go out. And I was always the last one off the mountain because we're carrying 90 pounds up these
It's like
huge mountains.
military training. It's like the 13
Yeah.
pound rucksack trek they have to do.
Yeah. 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 We'd go up there with a bladder bag. So we carry our IA packs that have all our water and our gear. That's 40 pounds. And then we carry a bladder bag with 40 pounds of water just for spraying. And we'd climb up there, spray it, climb back down to go refill it, and then go back up again.
Oh my
And,
gosh, I wouldn't be able to do that. No.
yeah. And so COVID hit and shut everything down. So the season I could have went out, no one could go anywhere.
Mm.
But I retained my desire to be physically fit. So when I changed the inner dialogue about, oh, I gotta go work out. No, I was like, time to go work out. And I was telling my son yesterday, I think, I said, you know when the best time to work out is? When you don't want to. When you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. Well, that's when you need to make yourself go to the gym. It builds up that resilience and that strength. And then I did the same thing with my job. I wouldn't let myself be like, oh, I got to go to work. Oh, I have to, I changed that dialogue of being disgruntled and angry or even just lackadaisical about going to work. I changed that whole idea. It's like, all right, this is what I need to do to get where I need to be.
I can do that with
And,
school all the time. I'm like, changing my inner dialogue to, oh, I have to do this homework to, if I don't do this homework, that I'm not going to be successful and get where I want to go. And I have to flip my mind around every time I get like that. So I totally get what you
yeah.
mean with that inner dialogue of changing it to, well, if you don't do it, then this is the consequence instead of,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. 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 It's like, I don't get up. We used to call it in prison, getting up like a firefighter. And those people that go to bed wearing all their clothes and then jump right out of bed and go straight to the chow hall.
Mm,
You know, I don't wake up out here like that. I wake up an hour before I got to go work. I make my breakfast, I make my lunch so that I'm already ready. I've already been in gear way before I have to go to work.
we do that here with the kids. I do that with my kids with school because then that way, if we have extra time, we have extra time. But at least if it's one of those days where things are going slower, we're ready. So no matter what, we're
Yeah.
ready. And I need to be one of those people that's prepared before things are going. So
Hmm.
yeah, I get what you mean by that. I can't just wake up and go. I can't do that. I need my time to have everything set into place before I leave
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one other thing was, so I used to think that I was like the Catch Me If You Can. You seen that with Leonardo DiCaprio,
hmm
where he pretended to be a pilot and he's like a con man that could pretend to be anything. He
hmm
faked it till he made it.
That's
I
a
thought
real
that was me.
story.
Yeah. And I thought I embodied that because that's what I always did. I'd go to a job like, yeah, I can do this, and I knew enough that I could fake it.
hmm
I'm the king of useless knowledge, so I
Yeah,
know all these
oh
little
my.
facts about stuff. But This time I changed it. Once again, I changed the dialogue. I quit telling the bosses, oh, yeah, I know. I told them, no, I don't know nothing. You can't expect me to know anything. I've done over 20 years in prison. How much could I actually know? But I'll
Mm.
figure it out. I'm smart enough to know how. And just that change, and then my work ethic made me, and my honesty about who I am and where I've been and my mental health has changed the way everyone looks at me. So while I was working at this tire place, I made friends with city councilmen, made friends with the mayor, made friends, all these people I'm making friends with. And the town started to embrace me. They're like, yeah, you got a powerful story. You need to share it. And they just kind of pushed me to where I needed to be. And that honesty has driven me and it's encouraged me to really display it and be forceful about it. Yeah.
Well, there's also this thing in psychology, and it's about like belonging and stuff. And the more a part you feel a part of your community, the more you're going to feel good about yourself, confident about yourself. You're gonna feel um like not alone. You're gonna feel like you're a part of something. And it's like,
Hmm.
so being embraced and being a part of your community is like, Karl Marx says, is like super, super good for your mental health. I forget the exact
Yeah.
term for it, but that's exactly, and you can see it coming from you, even like just the change just by being embraced by people instead of,
Hmm.
being looked at in a way that is negative, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I still get those negative looks from the people that don't know me. Because if you see me, especially if I'm in the gym and I got my muscle shirt on, it looks like a straight thug. And of course, I don't smile because of my teeth. I've always never, I don't smile. So I've always got a perpetual scowl on my face, and people look at me like, "Oh my God, look at this criminal." And it's like it's the ones that know me though. It's like, oh man, look at this guy who's doing great, you know. And like I said, they really embraced it so much so that I approached the mayor. He's previous mayor. We got a new mayor now. I approached him and said, "I'd like to do a radio show because he owns the local KRM 96.3."
Yeah.
He's all, yeah, what was it going to be about? All right. Well, pretty soon he's like, I got my radio show. Yeah.
That's how I got
And
it.
it's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I just present it. So then that's why I used to tell my buddy in prison. I tell him all these things he's going to do that I'm going to do. He's like, how are you going to do it? He says, because I'm going to ask. But
Well,
if
you
you
know
don't
what?
ask, it's always a no. Yeah.
That's exactly it. If you don't take a chance, there's 0% you're gonna get anywhere, right? I know there's more
Yeah.
to the saying, but I know that there's like a saying of like, you 0%. If you don't take any shots, you've got 0%
Yeah.
chance of getting anywhere, or something like that. I'm obviously saying
Yeah.
it wrong, but it's true, right? Like, I mean, a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of, even me, I would be nervous to ask somebody that, but it's worth it in the end, right? And like you said,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you can think it, you can do it.
Oh, for sure. And it's the same thing like with my sponsorship. I'm trying to get sponsorships right now. I got a goal of raising $5,000 so for marketing. And I'm just
Hmm.
writing letters telling them, look, this is what I can provide. This is what I can do. This is what I need. And they're not going anywhere, but I'm asking, and it's someone will eventually, or they won't, but it doesn't hurt to try, I keep quoting Jim Rohn, but
You should not
how did he
Eckert
say it?
Tolle.
Yeah. Uh, no, I forgot what it was now. But anyways, so even during this, even during before my first radio show, I was still living with my mother. And we had a huge fight because, and I mentioned this on the last show. I seen where the way she was reacting was creating the same reactions in my son. Where
Hmm.
he would lock up and get, he wanted to cry because he didn't know what to say because he thought he was going to say it wrong or something. And I kind of wigged out. She wigged out. And I moved out into a tent, and I literally was homeless for 2 months just recently. And the first night of my radio show that did not work because I had technical difficulties, I went home to a tent. The second night where it worked went perfectly, I still went home alone to a tent, but it's all right because for one, I'm a redneck. I had half the stuff in my car already, but yeah, I had it was like going into an office. I loved it. So I didn't stay very long in there, but even in this iteration, I I hit homelessness and came back out of it. Once again, thanks to the mayor. The mayor ended up renting me the lower half of his house. Now I got yeah, it's a really nice place too.
Well,
So
I
it's
can
just
I can tell that it's an older style house from looking at the background and stuff, so it looks like it's a nice place.
oh, it's really nice. It's all refurbished down here. It's got two rooms, so my son has his own room when he comes and stays on the weekends, and
That's
uh,
perfect.
then it's got the garage out there. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a great deal. He really looked out for me, and that was I was telling my mom this. So there's a kid that passed away here too, murder suicide. It's really really raw deal,
I have a lot of friends
and
that have done these things, so yeah, not
yeah,
nice.
and no, and the community really kicked in. He was, this really, really rural community. So he was a roper. The city councilman, who's also a roper, he put on a big ranch roping for him, and I went down there and helped. But they raised a whole lot of money for him. They had giveaways and raffles and all this. And someone commented, "Well, why does he get all?" People, how people are,
Mm-hmm.
about why they get all this. And it's like, well, because they're a part of the community. So why am I part of the community? So, well, what do you do? What do you do for the community? Well, I'm too busy. So no, well, they're a part of the community. They helped out. They were enmeshed in it, and that's how the community takes care of each other. They can't take care of you if they don't know you. You
Exactly.
know.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like my neighborhood. I'm not necessarily overly involved in my full community because we're not rural enough to be really, but like in my neighborhood, it's kind of the similar thing as like a rural community because we're kind of tucked away. And it's like
Yeah.
that with the neighbors, right? It's like if you treat everybody with respect and you're nice, then you've got a lot of people watching out for your kids, watching out
Hmm.
for you, bringing you food, bringing your kids toys, like just
Yeah.
the nicest things that people could do for you. And I would never expect it. And that sense of community that I'm talking about, like feeling like I don't want to move from here because I feel like I'm a part of this little community that we live
Yeah.
in, which is like, you know, probably the size of what your town is because it's not like I said, I live in a city, right? So it's a
Yeah.
section, right? And in this section by the train station, we're kind of tucked away and we all know where everybody lives and who everybody
Yeah.
is and everybody's business. And like I said, as long as you're nice to people and you treat everybody well, everybody gets along, everybody has a good time. It's lovely going out on a nice day for a walk and chatting. That sense of community is a major thing. Like, that's why I
Yeah.
brought it up as a psychology thing because I never really felt that way before until I lived here and got close with a lot of people quickly, even just because of how they are. I never
Yeah.
felt that before, and that feeling changes your attitude a lot too,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like so much.
It
You
makes you
don't
feel at home.
yeah, exactly. You don't feel alone or like disliked and, not wanting to
Hmm.
go outside because the people around you don't like you, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I grew up
Yeah.
in a
I
small
love
town.
walking.
I grew up in a small town where I was disliked by a lot of people. So
Hmm.
it was, I had agoraphobia at that time because I didn't like leaving my house.
Oh.
That's where the drinking came in because I wouldn't leave my house unless I had alcohol in me because I did not want to run into those people and my anxieties were so high that
Mhm.
it's the only way I'd leave the house.
Yeah. I can relate to you. That's how I'm from a small town, Cottonwood, that's off the mountain here. It's actually next to Sedona, if you've ever heard of Sedona.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and it's the same way. It's like I was completely disliked, and it's that place doesn't feel like home at all.
No, I
And
just
this
said
does
it
I
to
don't want to
my
leave here.
friend. It's
Yeah,
like this is a place we grew up and I don't feel like this is home anymore. Like I don't
yeah,
feel like this, so I feel like where I am at now is home.
that's awesome. Yeah, so once I started the radio show, I really started trying to tune in how I can help others. And so I came up because I wanted to be thematic to my show. So I came up with the gears of stigma shift. And and what it is
Like that
these are
title.
5 gears. Yeah, thank you. It's it's 5 gears that you can utilize in any aspect of your life, whether it's mental health, addiction, success, business, and it's so and you'll go through the gears throughout life or throughout the day. You can go through the gears, but you hit first gear. It's the slowest gear, and that's when you have awareness and acceptance. You're aware of the issue and you accept that what needs to be done or something needs to be done. You accept that there's a problem, or you're aware if it's success, you're aware of what needs to be done or where you're at. And then you hit second gear. That's when you begin seeking help or looking for it. That's when you start looking for avenues to uh, alleviate yourself of what's wrong or to reach your goal. Start looking for whether it's education, support groups, things of that nature. And then third gear, when you're going a little bit faster, that's when you're healing. That's when you got your growth going on. That's a phase where everything's starting to get better. This is a phase where you're working. You know, then you hit fourth gear, and this is where most of us reside on a day-to-day basis. This fourth gear. This is where you have purpose and momentum. You know what you're supposed to be doing in life, or on this journey that you're on, or this particular goal that you're working on. You know your purpose, and you got momentum working towards that purpose. And this is when you're a mentor. This is when you're helping others. You're not so much focused on yourself. You're focused on others a little bit more. And then fifth gear, that's elusive. That's a little more. That's the only people that stay in fourth gear or fifth gear is like Mother Teresa and Gandhi, and maybe not even Gandhi, probably just Mother Teresa, because Gandhi he was going through it. But fifth gear is joy and bliss. That's that utter happiness. If you want to think about it in that fleeting moment or in the short moment,
Like
imagine seeing,
cloud 9 kind of idea.
yeah, yeah, and as it's not always easy to hit. Imagine if you drive a stick shift, you may hit the last gear when you're on the highway, but if you're in the city, you're going to stay in the lower gears. So you go back and forth, and that joy and
Yeah.
bliss is when you really, yeah.
And like you said, it's hard to hit. It's like something that happens every once in a while. That's why it's so blissful and why it feels so
Hmm.
good because like you don't hit it every day. Like you said, you hit it every
Yeah, yeah,
so often, but not every day, right? And so when you
yeah.
do
And
hit
if
it,
you're
it's
in it every day,
exciting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be dull if it's all the time. You
Hmm.
need if
Yeah,
you didn't have something to judge it with or to compare it to, it would just become another day. But
I
yeah,
get
so
exactly what
I
you're
really been
saying.
pushing those gears, and I cover those a lot on my show. I cover the gears, and I cover the warrior mentality, and it's not so much about fighting; it's about not giving up. It's about strength and the resilience. You know, I I talk a lot about men's mental health, and a lot of people say, well, it's okay for men to cry. It's like, well, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can man up about your mental health. You can be a man and still talk about it, and you don't have to be crying. You don't have to be
Yeah, it's almost like they're
as vulnerable.
pushing it on you. Like you have to cry because men don't cry and like stuff like that.
Yeah,
Where that's
exactly.
if that's not the emotions you're feeling like at the time, you don't have to force it. Like I get what
Yeah,
you're
yeah, you
saying.
can. Yeah, because there's been times I have, it's very fleeting. It's not very often, very rarely, really.
Hmm.
That's just not how I express my sadness. So I don't need to. So I really try, I don't try and perpetuate that you have to cry to be able to talk about your mental health. Like, no, you can man up about your mental health.
I get what you're saying because like there's so many times when I've like spoke at AA and people are looking at me like, why aren't you crying? I'm like, I have more of a tick, is what I'm told, is I laugh at
Oh,
the end
really?
of something that bothers me, right? So instead of
Hmm.
crying, I laugh. So that's
It's like
my
a little
tick.
nervous laugh.
Yeah, it's like a little laugh instead of crying. It's more I laugh at it, right? Instead of
Hmm.
so if I tell you something like really, really like personally bad, right? I will go, right? But really, that means that it bothers me. but I'm not crying because that's just not my
Yeah.
personality. My personality is to, because I was bullied so hard, right? That I didn't want them to ever make like see me cry, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
cry. So I don't cry when people do things to me. I go or something, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly,
okay,
right?
because that's first gear. That's awareness and acceptance. You're aware of, I don't cry, and it's okay. That's fine.
I more so cry when
I
I'm
express
stressed
otherwise.
out.
Yeah.
That's when I cry. If I'm stressed out, I just start crying and screaming and by myself until I'm decided I've calmed down and then I bye. Like
Yeah. Yeah, and
usually
that's how I'm very
alone.
usually very stoic. Yeah. Yeah, I'm usually very stoic, and that's because it's a learned behavior. I don't want to. You don't show your emotions when you're inside. That
Well,
makes you vulnerable.
that it makes you
Yeah.
vulnerable as a kid too, right? Like getting picked
Oh,
on.
yeah.
So that's even
Hmm.
before that.
Even
If you
before.
think
Yeah,
about it,
exactly.
because you said you were bullied too, so you know that letting them see you cry is them winning, and that even goes back to being that young, right? So you already knew that
Exactly.
before you went inside because you'd already been through it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But now everything's good. I'm happy now. A lot of people can't tell, but uh, I'm definitely very happy.
Yeah,
I'm in a
I
good
can
place, and
tell. You definitely
yeah,
exude like happiness and peacefulness for sure. And like
yeah,
positive energy, I guess is the best word to use for it.
uh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's really made because I've always been so just been up on myself about my appearance, is how I act, and just the way people perceive me. To kind of find out that people perceive me as good energy, as a good person, and really relating to me is something new, and I keep embracing that. And that's one thing I learned in prison is I do really good artwork. I went from doing stick figures that look like they're having seizures to phenomenal portraits. And this is one of my early things of figuring out about mental health. But I would take these drawings around and show people before they were done. And after a while, I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I seeking this acceptance? Oh, because I never got praise before. I was like, well, why didn't I get praise? Well, I never did anything worth praise. So I started embracing that. So, all right, people to help their mental health do things that make you feel good, well, or that you get praised for. Find something that works for you that you can really embrace. Whether it's art, poetry, it could be mountain bike riding. There's things that make you feel good in a good way.
Exactly. Like I call them good addictions because I feel like everybody does need to shut their brain off a little bit because we're overloaded with all these traumas and things that have gone on in our life that we need that time to not have to think about it, right? So those are
Yeah,
good, not addictions, but well, kind of like good addictions, like going out and doing stuff you
yeah,
enjoy, opposed to going out and doing something that's hurting you is totally
yeah,
different, but it's bringing the same kind of like benefit per se by numbing you in a different way, a positive way, where you're not thinking about the things that are weighing you down or bothering you that day. You're taking the time to mentally just decompress in a way that's
yeah.
positive instead of
Yeah,
negative.
it's so important. They're so important. Yeah, especially like things like hiking. Then you're getting a triple effect. You're getting out of your head. Hopefully, you're getting the sun, the nature, the breath. You're getting physical fitness. Hiking is one of the greatest things you could do. Mountain biking.
Well, my husband,
Yeah,
especially if we're maybe like getting like to a point where we're gonna argue, like we're not getting along the best, he'll go for a walk himself because he just that like it that fresh air, that little bit of exercise,
mhm.
that moment of clarity for him and stuff like that really, really helps him, you know what I mean? And like I think from just the way he was raised and stuff like that, he and also doing a bit of time and stuff, just gives him, it's just his way of being by himself to, so he doesn't say anything that hurts
Yeah.
me. It gives him that moment of pause, but yet it's a positive thing that he's doing, not a negative thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not like he's going to the
Yeah.
bar.
Walk it
So,
off. Walk it off.
yeah, that's what he does. I follow him and start. He's like, get away from me. But
That's
anyhow,
awesome.
thank you so much, Shaun, for coming on a second time. I just wanted people to see the other, like, because we talked about the negative. I wanted to show people the more positive aspect of things that you're doing now and the things like that you have overcome and just kind of get to know who you are now opposed to who you were back then.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything that you want to say before I let you go?
Yeah, once again, I just want to get people to go to my new website. I have stigmashift.org, and that I'm going to start explaining the gears a little bit more on there so that people can utilize them in their life because the gears, they're just a tool. They're not hard and fast, but it's another tool for understanding to help you through and help you to maybe be a little bit better and a little bit more understanding.
I like that. And I like that. I like how you compare it to stick shift. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
just make sure you send me your information again, and I will put it in the show notes for both shows. So it comes out
Well,
twice. There you go.
awesome. Two for
Well,
one. Yeah, there you
well, thank you for coming on again and letting us see where you're at now and seeing the more positive aspect of things and seeing, how you have turned things around and how you've been able to change so much. And it's very inspiring and it gives people
go.
hope that they can do it too because you're definitely like a jack of all trades. Like you've taught yourself so
Oh
many
yeah.
different things, right? And that gives people hope that they can do it too. So I
Yeah, anybody
appreciate it.
can do it.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. You have a good
Yeah.
rest of your night, okay?
Yes, thank you.
I can hear destiny calling, calling out my name. Failure and dreams both offering